West. It's just and then the festival then is at High every year. So we've just kept it instead of going back and forth. Yes, we love to see you all there.
And I told Nicole.
The elevator is, Charles, where's the elevator in St. Charles West?
It's all the way back in the art hallway.
Oh, it is, back on the left.
Yeah, so through the commons.
So if you go to the Commons, go to the left hallway, and we'll make sure, or you find one of us. We'll get
Yep.
you down there.
Did you say
Yeah.
8?
Yes.
Monday morning?
Well, it starts at 8:30. People are getting there at 7:30 because we'll have a continental breakfast.
Yeah.
So 8:30 it actually starts, yeah. I'm glad you clarified that, thank you.
And I promised Nicole that I will wear a Care to Learn apron and sell raffle tickets. What are we raffling off, by the way?
3 trips, a winner's choice, so we'll have one drawing for a winner. Long weekend in New York,
Ooh.
Cabo, and Tuscany.
Don't drink the
I'll
water.
take it.
So then
You
they,
need to buy your
so raffle tickets as well as gala tickets, and the gala is
October 29th.
October 26th, and we hope to see everybody there for Care to Learn. All right.
All right. Excellent. Excellent.
That's
Can I ask
quite
what the
possible.
raffles cost?
And if we sell 750 tickets, we'll draw 2 people. If we sell 1,000 tickets, we'll draw 3 people.
Nice.
Do they all get to choose from,
They get to choose
so
which.
you got 3 New York trips?
Yes.
Very cool. All right. Excellent. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun morning.
Yes, it is.
3.04 Board Communications. Leslie, anything? All right. 3.05, we do not have anybody in the audience. Donna, do you want to read the?
No,
All right, so I do need a motion to amend or adopt the agenda, please.
I move we adopt the agenda. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.01, consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes the consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature or are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. May I have a motion, please, to approve this?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, 6.01, second reading policy changes. Any discussion, questions, comments? If I remember correctly, these were pretty just technical changes, nothing real.
it's adding in required language from USDA.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I move to approve policies AC and EF as presented. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 7.01, policy changes, first reading. The thing that I noticed here, which I thought was kind of funny, was that one of them basically just allows Kelly to keep doing what she's doing as, you know, the
Board secretary.
secondary board secretary. And then I think it had some language, if we use somebody other than the treasurer as well, needs to get a bond, get a surety bond or something like that.
I didn't realize I had so many responsibilities.
Well, I was kind of thinking that too.
As usual, so much responsibility and no money.
Okay, that's right.
Any other thoughts, comments, suggestions? All right. Oh no, we don't need a motion because it's first reading. We will revisit them next month. All right, tax hearing. Charles, I presume this is you.
Yes, this is just our annual required tax rate hearing. We typically do that prior to our regular meeting in September. So we've suggested 5:15. That's a fairly short meeting. We're just discussing tax assessed evaluation, setting the tax rate, and that's the only purpose of that hearing.
Any questions?
You say 5:15 in September?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, do need a motion, please.
I move
we
to-
approve the,
No, please, go ahead.
I move we approve the tax rate hearing to be held on September 12th at 5:15.
Oh.
Second.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Annual Secretary of the Board report, Charles.
So we typically have had this ready in July. As you recall, we were slightly delayed by some software changes at the state level that our software provider was trying to adapt to. So Diane has completed the Annual Secretary of the Board's report. Remember, that's the postmortem to a financial year where the budget is the forward-looking document. So the tail of the tape is really in part one, the summary. It shows the tax total assessed valuation of the district. This is this year listed here that ended December 31st of last year. It's the first time we were over $1 billion in assessed value. We're up about $100 million over that number right now for this year. It shows the basis of our accounting as a cash accounting instead of accrual. And then you see the levies, beginning fund balances, revenues, transfers, expenditures, and the ending fund balances. So there's really a fairly significant snapshot of our year right there. Unrestricted ending fund balance for Mrs. Besselman, 27.93%. That does include all reserves of the district, but does not include the self-insurance fund. So that's a restricted fund that's not included in that number. But that's for general and special. And I pointed out Nicole because as she's well aware, and you are as well, we have an agreement with the association if that number is below 25, above 25 or below 20 at this point next year, then we would reopen negotiations for the following. And then the only other piece that I wanted to show you, Chris, I think is on page 24 maybe. It's long and short-term debt, just for everybody's satisfaction where we are in relation to that.
It is 24.
Thank you. So long and short-term debt, there are three components to our debt. General obligation bonds is that top line, and obviously the largest. So you can see at the beginning of the year, we owed $54.5 million. At the end of the year, we're at $51.2 million in debt. The state law would allow us to be somewhere up over $130 million. So we're well under our allowable cap for public debt in that regard. The second line that says lease purchase, those are our buses, and the property purchase where on Boonslick Road where Early Childhood Center is sitting. And then the highlighted line, other debt, is equipment lease purchases like technology for teachers and Chromebooks for students that we have on revolving lease. And so that's the only other piece that I wanted to specifically point out to you unless you have questions.
So do we have any kind of estimate with the Sanford Farms development, with anything else that may be coming as we look to the next 12 months of how that could hopefully help our assessed value?
That's probably, any new construction next year will be the only significant change in our assessed value. 2019 and every odd year is a reassessment year, so that's why we saw a little bit bigger tick up this year. Next year should be relatively flat, except for the developments in the district, and that's by far the largest one. So none of those homes have any kind of tax abatement, so they'll come on as they're finished. But as far as an aggregated total, I don't have an estimate right now.
Makes sense. Any other questions? I also want to say how, also appreciate the fact that, we are so far under that, that debt limit. It can be very easy to say, well, let's just borrow as much as we can to do as much as we can, but the fiscal responsibility, really appreciate it.
When we talked about bond issues,
Yes.
aren't we kind of in a cycle? Is it every 5, every 7?
Well, our debt is structured so that we should be able to accommodate a fairly reasonable sized bond issue, and I'm talking 20, 30, $40 million every 3 to 4 years to continue to renovate and construct buildings and facilities as needed. And so we are almost to the end of the existing bond issue, and so I think we'll at least entertain the idea of talking about what's our next list comprised of.
Would we be looking at a bond issue proposal for this coming spring? Not
No,
that
ma'am.
soon? No.
No. We'll finish all the projects with
So
one
we'd have to be
exception,
talking about that
hopefully in
now.
December. But the final project to be bid, as I've mentioned before, is the buildings at the north end of the St. Charles West Stadium and a few other minor improvements that are all on that extended west campus over there. And that'll be this fall and probably will finish yet this fiscal year. So we should complete all of our bond issue spending in this fiscal year. And so I just didn't feel like it was prudent, and Jason agreed, and so we haven't even entertained it with you guys, but we didn't feel like we should be considering asking for an additional issue when we hadn't finished the existing one.
Yeah. Spring, but if that's when we're going to start looking at the next bond issue this year.
Yes, we actually have probably the ability to repackage some of this debt and save the district taxpayers some more money coming yet this fall. We've got to wait till it's within the window where we can call some bonds, but we'll do that and then look at where we are as far as the overall debt picture at that point. I do need to ask for your
I thought you were
approval
going to
of
say
the SBR.
something.
No,
All right, any other questions? All right, we do need a motion.
Secretary Board report for 2018-19 is presented.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And Charles, as always, please give Diane our gratitude as well for everything
will
she
do it.
does. All right, district financial report. Can I just say it's 6:50 and we're at the district financial report.
Well, we might be done by 7 if you'll let me give it to you.
let's finish first.
So
Do that to us. Do not do that. Come on.
I always start with your healthcare trust. This is a really inflated number this month, and for two reasons. We paid ourselves twice. You know, we pay our premiums to ourselves, so we paid ourselves 2 months. And then we also got about $150,000 in rebates on our pharmaceutical program that all came in this month. So that is inflated figure. You'll see that our contribution to the plan next month will be fairly minuscule, but so that'll balance us back out. But we're still in really good shape as far as the balance there. The second sheet, you know, I usually have 2 sheets that look very similar, month end and year end. In July, they're exactly the same, so I only have one. And just a couple things to point out. Our starting balance for the year is lower than it was last year, but again, very reasonable amount of reserves going forward. And as far as expenses, you'll see the salary lines are fairly low, only $797,000 in salary in July because we're not paying teachers. They were paid their July checks in June. So they get paid both June and July during the month of June. The employee benefits line, I want to point that out, that's related to what we just talked about. We paid ourselves twice. So instead of having an expense in employee benefits, it bumps us to actually a credit in employee benefits for 1 month only. So that's why that $508,000 credit is showing there for the month. And then capital outlay, we paid about $2.4 million on our various bond projects. And so you see the projected ending fund balances down there at the bottom. And finally, the budget report, again for this year, that Lavinia does, has no adjustments this month, but just projected ending fund balance for the year of 22.47. But again, because of some of the savings that are not in the existing budget, Lavinia's numbers are always a little lower than what we typically end up with. It's correct for the budget, but not for the overall balances.
That's still higher than we've seen in a long time.
Yes, we were running at 19, 20% most of the year. So, and that really, that extra 2% there is we had $700,000 that was budgeted but not spent last year. And that's not in one big pot. That's just in all the lines. There's a little bit left everywhere.
Good.
Awesome.
That's it.
Any questions, concerns? Anybody want to add an item to the agenda? No? All right. So I do need a motion for the financial report, please.
I move we approve the financial report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, need a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.